Hey, how's it going, everybody? We're ready. We get the video here. Oh, all right. Okay. All right, everybody. How's it going? We're going to see if y'all can hear us with our new thing here on the Binge. You live streamers only get this, all right? The downloaders, I take this out. I edit this part out, all right?
You're kidding.
No.
I knew that, actually. I'm just like, whoa. Hey, wait a minute. This is my career, all right?
Your career.
I was going to get a gig in a nightclub.
Oh, yeah?
Hey.
No, keep going. What would you do as at a nightclub?
I would sing, if you see me walking down the street and I start to cry.
Oh, is that our song of the day?
Yeah, do you know that song?
One more time.
If you see me walking down the street and I start to cry, oh, walk on by.
Does anybody hear that?
Do you know that song?
No. Is that Prince?
Oh, my God. You know, this gets into the theme of what I was about to talk about. Oh,
you being old.
Me being old. The world is just so much younger than I am. Man, that song, there's two versions of that song. There's a Dionne Warwick version. And then there's the Isaac Hayes version.
Oh.
Yeah, Isaac Hayes.
Hey. Is that your Isaac Hayes impression?
I like the Dionne Warwick version better, but there's those out there who say, I love Isaac Hayes, Ben. Okay, all right. Some people like this, some people like that.
So can you hear us, everybody? Weigh in on the video live stream chat if you can. I'm going to go ahead and do our intro. All right, the levels look good. One more time, that Isaac Hayes impression, by the way. All right, your Ben Joravsky show. Millennials, hang tight. We got a fantastic show planned for you. Isaac Hayes.
Isaac Hayes, man. Hey, millennials know him from South Park.
Your Ben Joravsky show for Wednesday, November 13th is moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 in District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. A giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and sponsoring this program. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky show is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. All right, KMA Barry. Shout out to KMA Barry. KMA Barry says loud and clear.
Oh, my man. And he's a huge Isaac Hayes fan.
Oh, okay. Are you KMA Barry? Are you a huge Isaac Hayes fan? Way in there. All right. Let me make sure we're set up, ready to go here. Okay, that looks good. KMA Barry, you're awesome. The Ben Joravsky Show. Oh, wait. Ben, sing the song again.
If you see me walking down the street and I start to cry each time we meet, woo, woo, walk on by.
The Ben Joravsky Show starts now. It is Wednesday, November 13th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's our weekly visit with legendary Chicago journalist Monroe Anderson, and it's the return of radio host and green gardening guru Mike Nowak. And now your host, furthest thing from green gardening guru, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this Harumph. Wednesday, and here's why.
Haven't we had a harumph day?
Yeah, I can't have enough of harumph
I think
days.
we had one of these 2 weeks ago.
I've been saying harumph a lot lately. Big story in the world of journalism, Dr. D. It's breaking as I speak. We're calling it Journalism Gate. That is, were the young editors at the Northwestern Daily correct to apologize to protesters whose pictures they posted in their coverage about their protests? Now, I know what you're thinking, listeners. You're thinking, we don't care. And you're absolutely correct. Nobody cares about journalistic issues except for journalists.
That's correct.
Thank you, Robert Mueller. I know this because I've been a journalist for like 50,000 years. Nobody cares about it. Journalists get together. They talk about their trade obsessively. But outside of the world of journalism, nobody cares. And yet, D, I'm going to weigh in. Why? Because I'm a journalist.
You have a podcast.
Well, you got to weigh in absolutely everything. I mean, it's like people think you got an opinion about Ben. What's your opinion about this? I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes you just don't know. But I'm feel obliged. Like I have to say something about it. I mean, if you're a journalist, you just got to weigh in. So here goes. But before I do that, I have to explain what happened, D. And I do this. It's like just a basic tenet of journalism that I've learned from practicing it for all the years. I realize that you cannot launch into a discussion about a topic without introducing your topic. And see, this is where journalists are different than ordinary people. Ordinary people, like you, for instance, do not feel compelled.
Hey, everybody.
Or Brian, the genius behind the Sun Times. When Dennis and Brian are having a conversation, they don't feel compelled to explain like each individual subject matter they bring up. They're working from the assumption that everybody knows what they're talking about. So, for instance, they're talking about rock music from the 90s or movies from the 90s. They don't go, oh, well, that was a movie in the 90s, 1993, I think the year was, blah, blah, blah. But no, in journalism, you have to explain everything, right? Kind of annoying, but it's once you start doing it, it becomes a habit. It's a lifelong habit that I have. Everybody knows this. I'll be talking to Dennis. I'll say, what will I say? Like Pulp Fiction. Well, it was a movie in 1993 by Quentin Tarantino starring Samuel Jackson. You cannot just say Pulp Fiction. You have to explain it. Like the other day, I was in the hospital, as I've explained before. We were talking about heart surgery, and there were 4 people in the room, and they were explaining a stent operation, and I said, oh, like Bernie had. And instantly, D, 4 faces stared at me, blank faces. They didn't know. There was a doctor, 2 nurses, and a nurse's assistant. They did not know what I was referring to. So I said, Bernie Sanders. And I think 2 of them knew immediately who Bernie Sanders were, but the other 2 did not know who Bernie Sanders were. So I had to explain Bernie Sanders is running for president of the United States, and he just had a stent operation. And none of them knew that. 2 things I concluded. 1, they're not listening to the Ben Joravsky show in the operating room or the emergency room. And 2, man, a lot of things that I take for granted, you can't take for granted. All right, so going back to the journalists at Northwestern, there was a protest at the Northwestern campus of a speech given by Jeff Sessions. Hold it. I have to identify who Jeff Sessions is. He's former Attorney General for Donald John Trump. Before that, he was a U.S. Senator from Alabama. He's arguably one of the most bigoted people to emerge from the Senate. I just throwing that out there. It's arguably. I'm not saying he's the number one bigot to come out of the Senate in the last 50 years or so. And as such, students at Northwestern were motivated to go protest him, okay? And then once their pictures were posted on the coverage, there was a great outcry against the editors of the Northwestern paper for having published the photos, and the editors apologized. And they said, we have to appreciate the fact that we are living in a community of students, and we may have exposed some of our fellow students to abuse. We may have gone too far, and we're going to reconsider how we practice our trade and our craft. And immediately, once that word got out, every old journalist, by old I mean anybody over the age of 30, started harumphing, which is what old people do. Harumph! How dare you do that? How dare you do something different than the way we did? Back in our day, we did it this way, that way, the other way. So I have to weigh in at this point, D. I'm going to tell you this. I'm with those young journalists at Northwestern 100%. Why? Well, not necessarily because I agree with everything they wrote in their apology, because I can't stand it when geezers go rough. Although my prediction is this. Those young journalists at Northwestern University will probably be going harumph themselves in about 30 years. We got a great show today, everybody. Monroe Anderson, speaking of an older journalist who's been known to go harumph from time to time, will be here as soon as he can pull himself away from the Donald Trump hearings. Yes, the impeachment hearings have begun, and Monroe will be giving us updates. I haven't watched. Have you watched any of them, D?
Yeah, just briefly.
Briefly. Okay, I've not watched any. This could be interesting. I'm going to have a discussion. I haven't watched any of them, but I've been obsessively following the prelude, so I think I'm capable of having a conversation, at least a more informed one.
Well, this producer's hoping so.
Than the emergency room doctors had about Bernie Sanders. I can't believe they looked at me like, Bernie Sanders had a stent operation? Like, wouldn't you guys know that? Like, I don't know, prominent people getting stent operation. Anyway. That's another thing that the old people do. They assume that there's something wrong with you if you don't know what they know. But youngsters do that too. Oh my God, you don't know what the Mario Brothers are?
I thought you meant get sidetracked. That's what old people do.
Yes, old people get sidetracked. Oh, young people never get sidetracked. Are you kidding me? Anyway, so not to get sidetracked, Monroe Anderson will be here and he'll be talking Trump. Mike Nowak, yes, radio host Mike Nowak will be here. He'll be talking Trump, and gardening, all right? And he'll be weighing in on Lori Lightfoot, but he loves talking Trump too. So he'll be here talking all sorts of Trump stuff. And I think we're going to have a mystery guest.
You're kidding me, really?
I've been walking around the city of Chicago looking for a young journalist to come on the show and talk about journalism. Please, come on, talk. Like, the young people say, oh, no, there's that old guy. Run. Anyway, I think I corralled one, and he'll be here at 2:45. But he hasn't. Should I announce his name, D? If he hasn't actually said for certain he's going to come on.
Yeah, don't announce it.
What are the radio school ethics of that young man?
Don't say it.
Okay, I won't. But he could be walking in.
A mystery guest?
A mystery guest. Ooh. So before we do any of that, the young man from Alton. Oh yeah. The ladies all love him for his body and his mind. I haven't used that line in a while.
Boy, I was hoping you forgot about that one.
For 10 trivia points, who was it originally ascribed to?
What? The ladies love him for his
body and his mind?
I don't know.
Otis Wilson, all right? God, these youngsters today don't know who Otis Wilson is.
I don't watch the dirty films you watch, apparently.
It was called the Super Bowl Shuffle, and it was actually came out before you were born, so you're excused for...
What year did it come out?
That was a little Obama-esque in the way you said that. What year did it come out? I'm Obama.
You don't know what year it came out.
How dare you?
Well, come on.
The year was 1985.
Okay, I was born. My name's Dennis, everybody. How's it going? Born in 1983.
Dang, man. You were already 2 years old.
Yeah.
You were drinking Mountain Dew.
Yeah, probably was. But my name's Dennis.
Mm-hmm.
Let's unpack the Chicago 8 or Illinois news happening.
Hold on.
What?
That's the unpacking.
Oh, okay. Unpack the Mountain Dew and the Chicago and or Illinois news happening this afternoon. No Wednesday public events scheduled for the governor. But as we mentioned yesterday, J.B. Pritzker got a visit from our Chicago mayor. Yes, Lori Lightfoot went to Springfield Tuesday. She's back in the city now for the city council meeting. We'll have updates on that meeting in moments. But the mayor was at the state capitol to cut a deal in an attempt to get some help bailing Chicago out of that $838 million budget hole we talk about all the time. Was she successful? Well, the answer is yes, no. I'm really not sure. It all depends on which Illinois political media source you'd like to believe this afternoon. And we're going to find out which story our host, Ben Joravsky, is buying, all right? Okay. So I got here two media outlets with two different opinions. First up, the following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and Tina Sfondeles. The mayor took questions from a packed House Democratic caucus on Tuesday, reminding them that a Chicago casino, quote, benefits the entire state. It was a rare and largely symbolic visit to the caucus for a Chicago mayor. Both Lightfoot and Illinois House Speaker Mike Madigan attested to that. former Mayor Rahm Emanuel rarely visited Springfield himself. Ben, why is that? Why do you think Rahm rarely came to the state capitol?
Because he thought he was better than everybody else. All he had to do was call Madigan and Cullerton, or Cullerton most likely. I'm better than you, so I'm not going there, and I'll just call John Cullerton. And actually, hard to criticize him. It worked. Called Johnny Cullerton. Boom. Want to bottle up that elected school board bill? No problem. Bottled up. So, he had his tactics, and he just...
Take a chill pill, man.
Yeah, sorry, Rom, I will. So that's why he didn't feel the need to go down to Springfield. He just thought, he would just one phone call to his pal, Johnny Cullerton, and that took care of that.
Well, he should have went to Springfield more. But by Tuesday evening, it became evident that Lightfoot would leave the Capitol without having seen any major movement on a measure needed to revamp the tax rates for a Chicago casino. And top mayoral aides told the Chicago Sun-Times Lightfoot's other idea, a plan for a graduated real estate transfer tax, is dead, at least for now. Still, Lightfoot reframed the visit, saying it was largely about building relationships. Pritzker's office Tuesday signaled support for a casino measure, vowing that the governor will sign it if it includes, quote, maximizing the opportunities for jobs for residents and revenue to address our financial obligations.
Wait, he'll sign which bill?
It says here he signaled support for a casino measure.
A casino measure. Oh, God. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
All right, yeah, the governor's office said legislators plan to file a bill shortly. So, according to the Chicago Sun-Times, Lightfoot's Springfield trip may have fell a little flat. But if you were to read today's Illinois Politico blog, you would think Mayor Lightfoot took the ball, drove it into the paint, slam dunked that sucker, and maybe got a and one.
By the way, without basketball reference, can I just point out that Kobe White hit 7 threes in the fourth quarter last night as my beloved Bulls defeated the dreaded New York Knicks at the Chicago Stadium, otherwise known as the United Center. Can I just tell you that?
I mean, you just did. That's our sports for the day.
Hold on. Kobe. Sorry.
Top story at Illinois Politico reads, Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot is close to winning a hand in Springfield after spending Tuesday talking to lawmakers about why helping Chicago is good for the state. Sources familiar with the discussions between the mayor and the governor say the mayor's request to tweak the tax rate for a Chicago casino could see approval this week as early as today. It's a good day, Lightfoot told reporters after her meetings. She also discussed her sales pitch to lawmakers. The mayor's and governor's office have been going back and forth to nail down a palatable tax rate that downstate and suburban Democrats would agree to support. They think they've got it, and the governor would sign off on it as well. Lawmakers also showed interest in the idea of a graduated real estate transfer tax, but they don't want to touch it right now because it's carrying too much baggage.
Wait, so what's the thing she's going to get if she's not going to get the real estate transfer tax?
I'll just read it again here. The mayor's and the governor's offices have been going back and forth to nail down a palatable tax rate that downstate and suburban Democrats would agree to support. They think they've got it, and the governor would sign off on it too.
I don't know what tax rate they're talking about in that story. If it's a casino tax rate, it's the graduated real estate transfer tax. There's so much happening. Let me just say this right now. And this is why it is so confusing for ordinary people to understand Illinois politics. It's very confusing for journalists who spend their whole life studying this stuff to understand Illinois politics. Because here's the deal, folks. It was about, I don't know, trying to go back in time. I think May it was that the word broke that a casino bill had passed. Remember that, Dave? Big news. The casino bill happened over like a weekend within 24 hours or 48 hours. It looked like it wasn't going to pass, and all of a sudden the deal cut, and it was passed. Everybody was saying, hooray, hallelujah, woo! Same thing with reefer. All of a sudden, reefer was legalized. Everybody said, oh, reefer's been legalized. By the way, we're going to bring young Tom Schuba into the studio this Friday. We're going to go take the reefer bill apart from A to Z. You should show up for that one, folks. Bring out your paper, bring out your pens, take notes, or if you're a millennial, take notes on your little phone, all right? Whatever you do, pay attention, because Thomas Schuba is going to take us from A to Z on the reefer bill, and it ties together with the casino bill, because both bills, the casino bill and the reefer bill, passed. All right, so if they both passed, why are we still adjusting the bills? Very, very good question, you ask. And this is one of the games they do in Illinois politics. They have something called a trailer bill. And a trailer bill is a bill that trails the first bill to clean up the mess of the first bill. And you go, wait a minute, I thought they passed that bill. That means they had an agreement. Negatory. They don't have a full agreement. Or later they realize that the original bill they passed created more problems that they hadn't seen. Or maybe they passed it realizing that they created the problems, but they figured they would just punt for the moment and clean it up in the trailer bill. And so that's what they're doing. These trailer bills that come together that happen in the vetoes. I know this is so confusing. This is why journalists, it goes back, you have to explain everything, D. Like most people go, huh? I thought they passed the casino bill, Ben. How many times people ask me at a party, but wait, hold it. I thought they passed the, then I start explaining and they're all walking away. The explanation, wait, I'm giving the explanation. Oh, it's so boring, man. Just give me.
Never mind.
Never. So yes, they passed the casino bill. But the casino bill needs to be modified. Why? Because apparently the casino bill they passed was too damaging to. It was too. The taxes were too onerous for any operator to want to run a casino in the city of Chicago. I'm a little dubious about that, by the way. I think there's plenty of money for an operator to make running a casino in the city of Chicago. The city is chock full of suckers.
Onerous and dubious. You're throwing out the $5 words today, buddy.
Oh, man. Did I ever tell you? I went, I was an English major. Yeah, okay. I did, yeah.
Okay,
Just saying, man.
Well, come down to our level a little bit
okay,
here.
it was too harsh, too high. The taxes too much, and so they can't make enough money. That's what they're saying. I doubt it, but anyway, Lori Lightfoot believes it. She said so. She went back to Springfield to ask them to adjust the casino bill so that there be less money going to the state and the city and more money going to the operator, and so the operator can make more money running the casino. To which I say, why? What's in it for us? What's in it for the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois if we can't tax the hell out of a casino and soak these suckers who actually throw their money away? We need that money here in the city of Chicago to pay the police and fire pensions. Why do we need to readjust it so more money goes to the operator? I'm just throwing that out there, D. That's a good question.
Throw it out there.
Right?
It's your show. Throw it out there.
But Lori Lightfoot says that the study shows that we have to lower the amount the state and the city take from the casino that they have in Chicago. So now they have to decide, well, who's going to give up how much? So the wheeling and dealing continues. And so that's why they're in Springfield right now trying to clean up the casino bill that we thought had all been passed way back when. Anyway, that's the casino bill. And I could do a whole explanation on the reefer bill, but move on with your story.
All right, so we've heard two different takes on Lobby Lightfoot's trip to Springfield. By the way, still no update on a deal being cut. Just looked online. No update. Ben Joravsky, which story are you buying here? Sun-Times or Politico?
You really put me on the spot there, T.
That was loud.
Conquistador stallions. I'm leaning toward the Sun-Times. By the way, if I'm wrong, tomorrow I will own up to it. If they cut a deal on the casino, I think the deal you're talking about is the casino bill or the real estate transfer tax bill. I'm not quite sure which one. Either one. According to my beloved Bright One and the Chicago Tribune, by the way, they also weighed in. Lori Lightfoot hit a wall. I think wasn't that the headline in the Tribune? It was a very good headline. Hold on, let me get the Tribune out. Did I tell you the Bulls won last night, Dave?
Yes, you did.
Yeah. Oh, no. Here's a Tribune. No well of deals for mayor. By the way, that's a good headline. I was critical of the Tribune yesterday. No well of deals for mayor in Springfield deficit fighting casino real estate transfer tax pacts eluding Lightfoot. So the Tribune's in agreement with the Sun-Times, and I have to say, yes, I think she hit a wall. The issue in terms of the real estate transfer tax is this. This is a tax that was originally talked about in terms of funding. You slap a tax on the sale of property in the city of Chicago, and it's graduated, so the tax goes up by if the property's worth more. So it's making wealthier people pay more, so it's fair in that way. And the money was supposed to be originally was going to be used to fight homelessness and fund affordable housing in the city of Chicago. Now Mayor Lori Lightfoot is saying that she needs the money to balance the budget. We can have a discussion on that. I know there's a lot of housing activists who feel that she's backtracked on her promise, But then again, it's one thing to be the mayor, and it's another thing to be a candidate. And so, she's got bills to pay as the mayor. As a candidate, all she has to do is make promises. So there are many progressives from the city of Chicago who are state reps who want her to at least obligate some of the money for housing. And she doesn't want to obligate any of the money for housing, apparently. And so they're fighting over that. And I just don't see that being resolved within 24 hours, D. Hope I'm wrong. Hope they can cut a deal, resolve it, because obviously the city needs the money, and the affordable housing people need the money here as well, because Chicago's getting very unaffordable. So I hope they can reach some accord. But I'm going to go with the Sun-Times and the Tribune on this one, D. I don't think they're close to cutting a deal.
All right, as I said, if updates become available on that, we will be talking about it. As I said, there was a Chicago City Council meeting today. The mayor's back in the city. She had her monthly meeting with the aldermen and women. So, yes, it's time for every Chicago political junkie's favorite fictional soap opera. It's the ever-flowing fountain of drama between a mayor and her aldermen. A mayor and her aldermen. All right.
I love this show.
You too.
I love this.
I can't get enough of it.
I know.
Today's big topic at the city council meeting: minimum wage. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times and the one and only Fran the Woe Man Spielman. By the way, download the latest Fran Spielman podcast. It's all about health, mental and physical. Chicago's minimum wage would rise to $15 an hour by 2021, 4 years sooner than the state. But tipped workers would only be guaranteed 60% of that under a mayoral compromise floated Wednesday that did not appease progressive aldermen. Under the mayor's plan, Chicago's $13 an hour minimum wage would rise up to $14 an hour on July 1st, 2020, and $15 an hour the following year. After that, minimum wage workers would be guaranteed an annual increase capped at 2.5%, tied to the Consumer Price Index. Employees under the age of 18 would also get to a $15 an hour wage, but more gradually. And the graduated hourly wage for tipped workers would rise to $8.40 an hour, which is 60% of the $15 minimum wage, taking effect the year after that. After the mayor's plans were laid out, one progressive alderman spoke up and said that this proposed minimum wage plan is not enough. Ben Joravsky, I'm only giving you one because I think that's all you need. Take a wild guess as to which alderman that was.
Well, there's many candidates in the running for this now that there's Democratic Socialists in the city council. But I am going to go with a candidate who is now in his second term. I'm going with the alderman of I'm totally, by the way, guessing this. This is the problem with gambling right here. If I had to put money on this in Vegas, I may lose, but I'm going to put my money down on the alderman from the 35th Ward, Carlos Ramirez Rosa.
That's correct.
Whoa, yes, win the money. Now, here's the other problem with
Don't
gambling.
win money.
No, but now you double down.
Oh my
This
God.
is what the gambling bug is all
You're
about,
scaring
folks.
me.
This is where you double down. So ask me another question. Let's see if I double.
No, I'm seeing the dark side of Ben Joravsky, and I don't like it.
The double down.
I don't like this. Yes, it was the 35th Ward Alderman and frequent Ben Joravsky Show guest, Carlos Ramirez Rosa. Rosa pointed to a study released last week that showed tipped workers in the Chicago area, now paid $6.40 an hour plus tips, have twice the poverty rate of the rest of the regional workforce, and 63% of them are, quote, workers of color in casual restaurants where tips are meager. The alderman went on to say that's the biggest difference between, quote, white and people of color tipped workers of any region of a comparable size in the nation. It continues to harm the restaurant workers who need the raise the most, which are Black and Latina servers who are subjected to sexual harassment and poverty wages as a result of the sub-minimum wage for tipped employees. Chicago has a lot of catching up to do to make sure that Black and Latina women that work in the restaurant industry have economic justice. This proposal robs them of that economic justice because it fails to get them to parity when it comes to the minimum wage. Dan Lurie, Lightfoot's policy chief, countered that, quote, going from $6.40 an hour to $15 an hour effectively overnight would be too much of a shock to the system for the restaurant industry. Lightfoot wants to get $15 for tipped workers, quote, but we want to build out a ramp here and a schedule that allowed for restaurants, many of whom are very small, to be able to pull this off, Lurie said. Lurie called the mayor's proposal, quote, a win for business and workers and a powerful part of Lightfoot's anti-poverty strategy, but restaurants need a, quote, chance to adjust. Dan Lurie then said the mayor is not unaware of the fact that the tipped wage economy is a very problematic economy. It's mostly women of color, and one where there is demonstrated clear evidence of exploitation and other problems.
It's tough being mayor. Okay, can I just say
kidding.
that it's tough being mayor? And look, I'm with the workers. I'm generally with the workers, and I'm all for eradicating the inequities in our city. And the way we divvy up the pie, we have to rearrange that. It's obvious. And the city of Chicago is becoming so expensive, and we're struggling with ways to pay for our obligations. And more often than not, we're going toward regressive forms of taxes. I talk about this all the time. So my inclination is to be with the workers. On the other hand, I realize that Mayor Lori Lightfoot is dealing with a lot of other people in the city than folks who agree with me. So you're not only just going to have like the Tribune's editorial board weighing in and the Sun-Times editorial board and Crane's. I'm sure all of them are going to be blasting Carlos's proposal as being too much. You're going to have the Illinois Restaurants Association weighing in. They got a lot of clout, D. They can call up, make phone calls. You can have press conferences orchestrated by really savvy PR folks. Remember the whole campaign against the soda pop tax and undid Tony Preckwinkle, it was largely controlled by Big Soda. So it's not like the other side is stupid. They got money. They have savvy operators who used to be journalists themselves and said, forget that, man. I'm getting out of journalism, going where the going is good and make some money. Representing Big Soda. So it's tough. You're Lori Lightfoot. You may have ideals, that you ran on, but now you're the mayor and you got to deal with all these different forces. So I understand she's under pressure. I hope they can reach some kind of accord. What is the difference between Carlos is asking for $15 an hour? What's what Danny Lori's saying? What's the kid Lori saying?
Lori's Lightfoot policy chief countered that going from $6.40 to $15 overnight wowould be too much of a shock to the system. Doesn't really say the exact wage.
It doesn't say what he wants.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
all right. Well, you're gonna have to come up with something. It's like what we talked about the teachers. The teachers wanted to get all the days back that they lost to the strike, and Lori Lightfoot said, "Oh no, you're not getting any days back." And I said, "Cut a deal, make it 5." And like within an hour, they were, hey, we heard on Ben's show. Let's go at 5.
We'll solve this problem too. Come on.
All right. So, Lori didn't give a number. Danny Lori, the policy guy for Lori. That's a lot of Loris. Dan Lurie, Lori Lightfoot, Lori Glenn on the show yesterday. So I would say $10 an hour. How about that, D, for tip workers this year? There you go. I solved the problem. Thank you, everybody. I solved another problem.
We'll be waiting online here to see when that update comes that Ben Joravsky just solved another one.
No,
2 for 2.
It's funny because we had on the show yesterday, Lori Glenn was here, and I thought it was a very good interview with Lori Glenn and Juanita Irizarry, and they were talking about how they want to give Lori Lightfoot a chance. They want to give Lori Lightfoot a chance to show the world what a great mayor she is, how fair she is, and how progressive she could be. And I know a lot of progressive folks out there are already getting impatient with Lori Lightfoot. They don't feel she has moved far enough to be the progressive mayor that she ran as. And now there's talk out there. Well, she never really was a progressive. She's just a reformer. There's a distinction between a reformer and a progressive. I do believe that the problem of inequity is a key part of what's wrong with so many things in the city of Chicago right now. Folks can't afford to live in the city of Chicago, and I think Lori Lightfoot has to address that. And this is one basic way of addressing that by raising the minimum wage and raising it even for tipped employees. Someone is going to have to help the poor people in the city of Chicago, the working people in the city of Chicago. You can't just continually assume that they can just plow along with the system we have. So I feel that Lori's going to have to come up a little bit. Come on. You can do it, Lori Lightfoot. Come up. Easy for me to say, right, D? I'm not going to get the calls from the Illinois Restaurant Association.
So there you go, the update on today's city council meeting and the latest between a mayor and her alderman. To be continued.
Yeah, by the way, this is going to come down. Will the city council, mayor and her alderman, will the Chicago City Council come up with votes to block the budget? You know what, D? If I had, again, going to bed, I do not believe they have the votes to block the budget. I believe that Lori probably already has. Well, you need 25, and she would be the 26. I think she has the votes she needs to pass pretty much anything she wants. The issue gets to be, does she want like a ROM-like outpouring of like 45 to 48 or 49 yes votes? It seems to be the way that we do things here in the city of Chicago, that it's a sign of weakness if a mayor cannot get an overwhelming sign of support for his or her budget. So is she holding out to, in the deal, like the minimum wage deal with Carlos Ramirez Rosas, so to get him to sign on to his budget, and so she could say, look, what a great budget I came up with. Everybody's for it. Or is she just going to be satisfied with having the 25 or 26 votes she needs to pass it? My guess is she already has that. And so she really doesn't need the progressives, but we'll be watching.
All right, we're waiting for our guest, Monroe Anderson, to arrive. And while we do that, we have an update, a City Club Gate update.
That's correct.
Hold on. Let me get my City Club certificate out.
Oh, please do. Please do. Yeah, Ben's a member of the City Club of Chicago. And when he went to that meeting at the City Club, well, they weren't as shady as they are now, I guess you can say.
I don't know. They'd already been raided. I didn't know that. Nobody told me that.
Oh, really? I
raid,
didn't me either.
The raid happened in May.
Oh, my God.
And I was thinking about this as I was taking the train into work today. I was just reading the story. There was a great article in the Tribune. I have to give a shout out to the Tribune, by the way. Hold on, let me get to the paper. There was a great article in the Tribune. I've been thinking about this so much. I just want to see who wrote it. Yes. Rick Pearson, congratulations. I thought this was a really good article, very educational. In Trump's saga, refrains of Blagojevich's tale. And I've been thinking a lot about this, contrasting the impeachment process as it affected former Governor Rod Blagojevich in 2009, and the impeachment process is just underway in Washington right now as it affects Donald Trump. And with Blagojevich, there was no sympathy on the part of the Democrats whatsoever. As soon as the feds came a knocking on Blagojevich's door and arrested him in December of 2008 for allegedly shaking down the Obama campaign for contributions to get to determine who would be the next state senator to replace Obama. The Democratic Party abandoned him. The votes were overwhelming. I think there was one vote, Deb Mell, State Representative Deb Mell, who was Rod Blagojevich's sister-in-law, was the only Democrat who voted against impeachment. And then it went to the Senate for a trial, and it was a unanimous decision by the Senate. Nobody voted to acquit Blagojevich. He was all alone. Everybody, Republicans and Democrats, denounced him. He did not have his day in court. He had not had his day in court. There was nobody, to counter the federal accusations that had been made by the U.S. attorney. And Blagojevich was driven out of the state, and everybody sort of patted themselves on the back. It was really interesting. Pat Quinn was sworn in, and he asked, I remember this, he asked Ann Burke of the Supreme Court to swear him in. And Ann Burke, of course, is the wife of Alderman Ed Burke, who is now under investigation himself, has been charged with shaking down, using his property tax business to shake down people here in the city of Chicago. So it's just really curious. I remember feeling, you're so self-righteous, people here in the state of Illinois. You drove Blagojevich out for doing what you probably have done on one variation or another your whole career. And then you have Ed Burke's wife swear in the new governor and call it reform. I had a hard time stomaching what I thought was the hypocrisy there. And what Rick Pearson does a very effective job in this article, contrasting the opposition to Blagojevich, the unanimity of opposition to Blagojevich, and to drive him out of office. And just think about what's happening in Washington right now with Donald Trump. The Republican Party, it's pretty clear not one Republican no matter what evidence is brought out about Donald Trump and what he did to Ukraine's president, not one Republican will vote for an impeachment, it seems like. And when we get to the Senate, if it does come to the Senate, Mitch McConnell does allow it to come to the Senate, I do not believe one Republican senator will join with the Democrats. This is purely partisan, and the Republicans who are in the House are turning their attacks on their Democratic colleagues. They're turning their attacks on the White House staffers who are testifying against Trump. They're turning their attacks on the feds. They're essentially assailing anybody who dares to criticize Donald Trump. Completely different than what went down in Illinois, where there were no defenders of Rod Blagojevich. There was nobody questioning the evidence that had been marshaled against Rod Blagojevich. Absolutely everyone, Democrat and Republican in the state, turned against Rod Blagojevich. And just an interesting contrast. It just once again exposes the difference between the Democratic mentality and the Republican mentality when it comes to politics. Republicans play to win. And they don't care if what they say today completely contradicts what they said the day before. It's been very effective and successful for them, so I don't see it changing. Anyway, great article by Rick Pearson in today's Chicago Tribune on that subject. We'll be talking about that with Monroe when he comes in.
So far, City Club Gate update here. After the raids and all the negative press, City Club President Jay Doherty offered to resign. Well, the following comes. Well, it comes from Chicago business and quite possibly the meanest poker player in all of Chicago, Greg Hines. But I'm reading it off of Capital Facts and Rich Miller here.
Okay.
Let's see here. After some internal debate, the club's board decided to reject Doherty's offer to resign. Insiders tell Rich Miller or Greg Hines or whoever wrote this here, at least in part because Doherty in recent years has been critical to the club's success in landing prominent public officials to its forums, including governors and mayors, U.S. senators, and even candidates for president. We have a quote here. It says, Mr. Doherty is the president of the club. I don't know of any move afoot to change that. I hope he stays. He's largely the reason we've been successful. At the same time, club leadership has declined to press Doherty for some explanation of exactly what he did earn that much from ComEd, a state-regulated entity, and to answer whether that big check conflicts with the club's very public role in helping shape city and state public policy.
Yeah, no, this is a funny one. By the way, one person invited to speak at the City Club was yours truly, and they gave me this lovely certificate saying I have an honorary 1-year membership.
It's given us so much material. I'm so glad you went to that.
It's only a 1-year membership. I'm just thinking about what about my lifetime membership? What happens?
Are you going to renew?
I have to think about it. It's kind of weighed in with Doherty. Do I stick around if Doherty stick around? But anyway, there's an ongoing investigation into Commonwealth Edison and its relationship to Michael Joseph Madigan and the Democratic Party. And was Commonwealth Edison giving jobs to people, do-nothing jobs to Democratic operatives as sort of a way of providing patronage for them so they go out and campaign, spend most of their life campaigning for Democratic politicians. In exchange was the state of Illinois, the Democrats of the state of Illinois just slipping through, greasing through any rate request for Commonwealth Edison. I suppose this is the things that the feds are investigating, and Jay Doherty, as a lobbyist for Commonwealth Edison, the feds came a knocking on his door at the City Club back in May, I think it was, to gather up. I don't know what they gathered. They gathered something, and so that's what made me think about Rod Blagojevich, because the City Club would be the kind of place where everybody would gather. When the story broke about Rod Blagojevich, to say what a terrible character Rod Blagojevich is. If we can only get rid of Rod Blagojevich, the state will be purer and cleaner, and we'll be better off as a people. Overlooking the fact that just the usual business that goes on in the state of Illinois every time, sanctioned by Republicans and Democrats as they look the other way. So it just kind of makes me smile a little bit. And the feds came a knocking at the City Club door. And should they keep Jay Doherty as the president? Well, they're like, keep him. Why not? What the heck, huh? Why let him? Listen, all they did was come a knocking. They haven't charged him with anything, right? In this country, D, You're innocent until proven otherwise. So I'm going to keep my certificate. I've decided that it would be hypocritical for me to throw away my certificate.
There you go.
I'm going to keep my prize certificate. And Jay Doherty should keep his job unless they have some goods against him.
Hot damn, I love that story. City Club Gate.
City Club Gate. It has given us a lot of material.
Okay, so hey guys, it's football season. Did you know that? Wait, it is football season still, right? It's not over yet? What week are we in?
My beloved Bears were victorious. The Bears, it's week 10, I want to say.
Oh, okay. And there's 16, right?
There's actually technically 17 weeks. Every team has a bye week, yeah.
Okay,
so I think we're heading into, don't quote me here, week 11 of the season.
Oh, okay. How are the Bears doing?
Not very well. They won on Sunday. They played a team that's awful, the Detroit Lions.
If you can make a noise that described the Bears season so far, what would that noise be? Okay. That's a person choking, I believe.
That's a person choke. By the way, since we're talking sports, I tell you that Kobe White hit 7 threes in the fourth quarter yesterday for my beloved Chicago Bulls.
What was that again?
Since we're allowed to talk about sports all of a
I
sudden.
mean, we're not, but go ahead.
Did I tell you that Kobe White from my beloved Chicago Bulls hit 7 threes yesterday? Mm-hmm. I was at the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hey, it's football season, which means that the best sports reporters at Chicago want to offer you, yes, you, our listeners, an exclusive deal on unlimited digital access to all of the stories that you love. The Sun-Times has always been your go-to source for sports, right? Right? Well, now the Chicago Sun-Times is a proud partner of the Chicago Bears. Ben, make that football noise.
Let's say 2020.
Yeah. Don't miss a game this season. Get the big plays, scores, and stories from the Chicago Sun-Times. For a limited time only, that's Y-O-U, you can lock in our lowest rate yet. Only $29.99 for a full year of all the news and sports that you need to know. $29.99 for a full year of unlimited access, people. You can't do better than that. Take advantage of this exclusive deal now at suntimes.com/Ben. That's suntimes.com/BEN. People, don't go anywhere, because when we come back from this break, Monroe Anderson will be joining us. It's the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times. The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters. Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
And for the record, I love puppies.
Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
But we got to get down to business.
It's the butter cow, which has 9 hearts to represent the 9 essential nutrients in milk. That's right, it's made entirely out of butter, and it's a state fair tradition since at least 1922.
America does not want to witness a food fight. They want to know how we're going to put food on their table. Yes.
Let's be honest, guys. Did the problems on the South and West Side start in 2011?
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Monroe Anderson is with us. He's braved the cold. To give him a lot of credit. More importantly, he ripped himself away from the TV where the hearings are going on. Monroe Anderson has been waiting for this day
2.5
years. He knew. Monroe Anderson, legendary Chicago journalist, knew it was just a matter of time before Donald Trump just got himself into all kinds of trouble.
Trump is corrupt to the bone.
He is corrupt to the bone. You know, I want so much to talk about Donald Trump with you, and we're going to do Donald Trump, and what's happened. But I also there's so these little side issues that I haven't talked to you about, like Journalism Gate, which is breaking out at Northwestern. And also, I don't know if you saw Clarence Page's column in the Tribune today where he weighed in on whether it's okay for Hollywood to cast Africans actors for roles playing Black Americans.
Yeah.
And he weighed in on that one.
That's my Mrs. complaint too. She says that the Africans are taking over everything.
Who says this?
Joyce.
Oh, Joyce says that?
Yeah.
Come on, Joyce. The Africans are taking. That's like my friend Norm used to worry about that in the NBA. He was like, but you know what? Hey, it's supposed to be a meritocracy, right? Isn't it supposed to be a meritocracy? All right, let's manage to avoid that discussion for a while anyway.
Although I think it's fine that they're, that the Africans are doing what they're doing.
I agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually for now. We'll probably have this conversation when Sergio comes on next week because I think this is a perfect Sergio conversation. I believe we should do away with casting by color altogether. Throw it out the window.
Well, that's what Hamilton did. The musical.
Yeah. Exactly. We should do that for all things.
And the Goodman does it for Christmas.
And we should do it for all things. So, for instance, Samuel Jackson can play Macbeth. In other words, a role that is traditionally associated with a white person, a black person should be able to play that role. And the actor is good, the audience will forget. That's the challenge to the actor. And so this notion...
Well, except the way racism works in America, when you encounter somebody, just a stranger, the first thing you see is color, the next thing you see is sex. And until that goes away, of course, maybe if they did colorblind casting, it may go away, but I don't think so.
If the actor, what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, if the actor is really good, then the color becomes irrelevant. So, for instance, Denzel playing the character in Death of a Salesman.
Yeah.
The old salesman.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks of a rumpled old white guy.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
Right.
Why can't Denzel? He's 60 years old now. He could play a rumpled old salesman.
Yeah.
And once you get over...
A salesman is a salesman. So that's but there are some racial roles. For example, if they did a movie about Bill Dukes, Denzel would not work.
You mean David Duke?
David Duke.
David Duke, yeah.
Not Bill.
I was like,
Bill's
whoa,
the
you
actor.
threw me. Yeah, I'm like,
right.
wait,
I'm sorry. Yeah. David.
Actually, I'm going to disagree with that. Let's really throw it out the window. If he's a great actor, you'll lose sight of him. And
right.
He'll just be a racist.
Right.
Hey, if Samuel Jackson can play the world's biggest Uncle Tom in Django, why can't Samuel Jackson also play a white racist? If he's a great actor and the script is good,
because you keep looking at Samuel Jackson and go,
that's your problem,
not
America.
white.
You want to get to America to the point where we don't see color? Is that the goal?
Yeah, right.
All right, let's go,
Yeah,
America.
right.
Samuel Jackson will play David Duke.
And I don't have a problem with seeing color. I have a problem with discriminating once you see color.
That's a valid point. That's a very valid point. But I would love for Samuel Jackson to play David Duke. And you know why? It would piss off David Duke.
Yeah, I know. It would.
How about Samuel Jackson playing Donald Trump?
Right.
Instead of making Alex Baldwin, let's get Charles Barkley to play Donald Trump in the next... Anyway.
Why don't we get Shaq to play Donald Trump? He's about the same intelligence level.
Okay, there we go again. We had to throw Shaq under a bus. All right, let's give us the update. Let's move away from this discussion. We'll probably have it next week when Sergio's in the studio at greater length. Let's get the update on what went down today at the hearing.
Oh, okay. We got the Patriots. That's Taylor.
William Taylor.
Bill Taylor and Kent. George Kent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we had them telling the real story and how it should be. We had the Republicans throwing stuff on the wall. Okay, first of all, they didn't attack their character. They weren't foolish enough to do that. But what they attacked was they attacked Biden. They want to know why wasn't Biden being investigated instead of the president, since the Ukraine was doing all this stuff in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
They rigged the election. It wasn't Russia, it was Ukraine. And their questioning went along those lines.
Wait, so all right.
See, they have this cockeyed theory.
Mm-hmm.
There's this cloud storm or something, but some organization that the right wing says actually hacked the Republicans and were out to do Trump in.
Mm-hmm.
They were, it's so cockeyed, it makes no sense whatsoever. But anyway, they were pushing and questioning on that, and they were complaining because Biden wasn't there, and they were talking about the whistleblower. They wanted to know why wasn't he or she there, so they could question their credibility. It's just all these distractions and.
So in other words, of course, everybody should know the Democrats are running the show. It's a Democratic. The Democrats have the majority in the House, so they get to. They're the majority party.
The American people made them the majority party to get rid of Trump.
And a legitimate majority,
right.
Unlike Trump's majority, which was a minority.
Right.
So all right. So So they run the show. So they're the ones who have raised the charges against Trump. They're the ones who are conducting, largely leading the investigation, and they're calling these witnesses. So before we get into the testimony of the witnesses, what you're saying is that what the Republicans do are, instead of questioning witnesses about what was said, when, or where, or whether, they're just simply assailing the Democrats for not having Biden
and questioning the procedure. You know, they want to know why can't the whistleblower, why isn't the whistleblower there? They want to know why wasn't Hunter Biden there. I mean, it's just
so they're not even asking questions of Taylor when they get their opportunity.
Well, finally they got around to that.
Okay,
and then the questions were whether Taylor and Kent were being specific enough. They would take their testimony and ask them, well, you said this. Well, for example, and now I'm riding around the blocks, concentrating on getting a parking space.
Yeah, that's always difficult.
Right, yeah, right. And so
half of the spaces are cut off.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly. So I wasn't in full concentration, but from what I could tell, what they were questioning was, well, because Obama didn't give the Ukrainians any weapons, hard weapons. He gave them blankets and GPSs or something, because he didn't want a shooting war there. He was trying to avoid that. And Trump did give it to them some weapons. Then they were attacking Obama and asserting that Trump was in fact the hero.
Wow.
Oh, you can't Ukraine. Now, the truth of the matter, for those of us who have followed this with any regularity, Trump was holding up giving them the javelins, selling them the javelins, giving them the money to buy the javelins, until, because he was 2 days away from getting President Zelensky to go on CNN and announce the investigation of Hunter Biden. And then the whistleblower blew all that up. He or she came out and exposed them. And so then they gave them the weapons. They gave the Ukrainians the weapons, Trump did. And the Republicans are just completely sort of skipping over that matter and just saying, well, they have the weapons. And that nowhere was quid pro said between in the conversation. I think it's the 25th
of July.
Yeah, July 25th. Nowhere during that conversation did Trump say quid pro.
Wow.
So I mean, it's just because they don't have a defense. I mean, Trump has been caught having shot several people on Fifth Avenue. Yeah. The corpses are there. There are eyewitnesses. There are casings around, and they're still trying to deny it.
So let's get back to what Taylor and there were two main witnesses today, George Kent and Ambassador William Taylor.
Right.
So talk about Kent's role in all this.
Kent is I'm confusing him now. Wait a minute.
Kent is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of State, and William Taylor is the ambassador.
Okay.
The top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine.
So Kent was the one who came up against the three amigos, and that's Giuliani, Soundland, and trying to remember who okay, I'm blocking on his name. I see his picture, but I'm blocking on his name. But anyway, they were the alternate group running foreign security, national security in the Ukraine. Trump, we have an official department of which Kent is a part of. He's in charge of that. And then you have Giuliani trying to cut a deal and insisting that the Ukrainians would not get a visit to the White House, which Zelensky really needed to show his people that he was legitimate and that he had some clout, and the money for the weapons, and they kept. Giuliani was telling them you can't get it. Sandler was saying it, and Trump was saying it, but he wasn't saying it on that particular conversation. But they're going to have other people who are going to say that Trump said it.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious. It's pretty clear that they got Donald Trump nailed on the issue. That he was clearly stating to the Ukrainian president that unless he, the Ukrainian president, announced, all he had to do was announce an investigation. It's not even clear to me that there had to be an investigation.
Yeah, no,
he had to merely announce that there was an investigation.
Trump wanted Zelensky, to make the announcement so he could use that against Biden. That would be his whole campaign thing, everything. And they were literally 2 days away from it. And then the whistleblower blew it up. So that's the other thing. The Republicans are insisting that they bring in the whistleblower so they could question him or her.
Yeah, as if all these other.
Oh yeah, no. This
all these other witnesses who are testifying aren't enough. You just got finished saying they're barely even questioning the witnesses they have. They just want the other witness that they don't have, as opposed to
because it fits into all their various conspiracies that they have about what really happened. You know, the deep state business. It fits into that until they get the whistleblower in. What's ridiculous about that is imagine that that Dennis started a fire.
Okay, imagine this.
In this building.
All right.
You did on the way up here. I don't know what he was doing.
Mike Nowak has joined us. Go ahead.
Okay, and so I'm passing through and I see the fire, so I pull the alarm.
Yeah. Go ahead. I'm going to try to see where you're going with this.
So, the fire department gets here, and they put out the fire. And then everybody wants to know who pulled the fire alarm, not who set the fire. Right, exactly. And so, this is basically what they're doing with insisting. That the whistleblower come along. The whistleblower just told them that something was going on that didn't look right. And then after that, they found all this other stuff, and they have had at least 10 witnesses that have said in some form or another that Trump was trying to extort and bribe the Ukraine.
Well,
Can I throw something in there about the whistleblower? Since you said we might talk Trump, the whole whistleblower thing episode, and you've outlined it very well. I love your analogy, and I've been thinking about that too. And it's purely punitive. It has nothing to do with bringing any facts out.
And to scare other whistleblowers.
Right.
This is what will happen.
Which is why we have a whistleblower law. So it's about as anti-American as you can get. And the whole idea is there's no reason to find the whistleblower. I liken it, and some people will disagree with me about this, the death penalty. The death penalty, in my view, is punitive. It doesn't bring justice. Once you've convicted a convict, you've gotten your justice. Now we want blood, some people say. And and I've never had a close person next to me murdered, so
I have, so I know, yeah.
But I still think it's a bloodlust, and the same bloodlust right now is going for the whistleblower. It's just because Trump is a petty, vicious, vindictive human being, and he won't rest until he has that name.
Well, I actually think there's two things happening. I think you're correct, Mike, that Donald Trump is all those things, and he's obsessed with knowing who the person is that dared to blow the whistle on him, so he could just, at the very least, malign him through Twitter. Which just seems to be his favorite.
Well, no, what they will do then is pick them apart. You know, they'll. I mean, whoever it is. I mean, if he got a parking ticket last week,
that's the other point.
They'll make that an issue.
Yeah, and so that was my second point, and so the tactical advantage to putting the attention on the whistleblower, as opposed to, let's say, putting the attention on the gentleman who, William Taylor and George Kent, who are actually sitting right in front of you at that moment testifying as to what they saw and their problems with how Trump behaved. By putting the attention on someone who's not in the room, you can just sort of shroud the entire proceedings with dubious intent, perhaps. You could undercut the credibility of the proceedings.
Oh, another one, and in the proceedings.
Yeah, that's
and I have to you have to forgive me, but I've watched 3 hours of it nonstop, and so my mind it hasn't even
I watched a lot of it this morning
it hasn't
too.
even had time to process it all. Okay,
and I wonder if you have the same opinion that I, or the feeling about that, having watched this, and it's. To me, it's really embarrassing watching most of our congressional representatives ask questions and watch their thought and I should use air quotes for thought processes because they're not. When they put that on display, they mainly embarrass themselves. You know, I like it when they have the lawyers there and you can follow a line of questioning, but then you give the 5-minute thing, and it's. You're waiting for somebody just to say something stupid, and they almost always do. And
well, if you're a Republican, you have nothing but stupid things to say.
Yeah, but it wasn't just the Republicans. I was listening to a couple of Democrats on the way in today, on the way in here, and I thought, oh, please don't do that. You're not helping the cause. You're not shedding any light on this.
Give me an example of the kind of discourse you're hearing from them.
Oh, what was... Well, for one thing, Joaquin Castro was questioning when I was coming in, and first of all, he called one of the guys an ambassador who had to politely respond. I'm not an ambassador, sir. And
that's Kent, right? Kent. He was talking.
Yeah. And what was the question? I'm not going to even remember. I just know that he asked a couple of dumb things that I'm driving, and I'm thinking, please stop. Just don't do this anymore because it's not helpful. But they have the right to do that. It's the way it's set up. And some people will be a little more laser focused than others. But when you just open it up to everybody, then it becomes a clown show.
Well, my hope was that they would have a prosecutor, somebody who's not running for office, someone who's not up for election at all, just handling.
Well, Schiff is a prosecutor, and he's done a good job.
Yeah,
he did a good job. And they have prosecutors doing the questioning, which made it interesting. Yeah, because with the Democrats, a guy's name was Goldman. Maybe Donald Goldman or Dan Goldman or something. But anyway, Goldman would question them, and he would pull it out of them, you know, because they were reading basically. They had their scripts there.
They being Kent and Taylor.
Yeah, Kent and Taylor. They had their scripts there because they couldn't remember everything they said, and they wanted to be consistent with it.
Yeah, they're under oath.
Yeah, exactly. So they'd be asked a question, and they would look down at the script to see what answer they had given before and sort of read it back. And things that were off script, what Goldman would do is would lead them along. You know, he
well,
lead them with the question.
what I was hoping would be.
Yeah. So that was good. And with the Republicans, I don't know who this guy was they had, but he was also a prosecutor, I think. He was attacking them or leading them into the whole Republicans stuff about the deep state and and all the implications. They want to know, well, what did Trump say about this? Or one of their defenses was that President Zelensky said he didn't feel pressured, and he never mentioned that he was pressured. And so they just beat that horse to death. It's like he says he's not pressured. The president, he stood before a whole gaggle of reporters, international reporters, and then he named the newspapers that said that he hadn't been pressured by Trump. That sort of thing.
All right. Do you buy that line that he wasn't pressured?
That's crazy. No, that's nuts.
Why would he say? He's not going to say that.
Yeah, right.
He's trying to get $400 million.
Right. And wants to have good. He doesn't know whether Trump is going to be in office or not.
Right.
So he wants to keep a good relationship. So no, he's not going to say that.
The poor guy's doing a tap dance there, just to, walking on a thin wire, just wondering what's going to happen next.
Right.
It'd be funny if he did say he was pressured. Then the Republicans would start ripping his credibility.
Oh yeah, right, exactly.
Your wife once wrote a letter endorsing Hillary Clinton. I have it right here. I'm telling you, we're going to take a break, but I'm telling you, folks, we are watching the OJ trial too. It's just, I get a delight out of this because everything is flipped. Back in the 90s, all these white Republicans were denouncing Johnny Cochran, and now they're just taking a page from his book. They should be thanking him. He taught them how to play this game. You put the other side on trial and hope that everybody doesn't pay attention to what your client did.
But it's not a trial. It's fact-finding, is what it is.
And it's not working.
Well, all right.
Except among the Trump nuts.
We'll get into that when we return. Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. Jeff. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy, UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters. All right, everybody, hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for being sweethearts, quite frankly, and sponsoring this program. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, not Aerosmith, Local 126 and District 8. The International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9. The International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. And, of course, today's Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. It is Wednesday, November 13th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, This is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, we still got Monroe Anderson in studio, and it's the long-awaited return of radio host and green gardening guru, Mike Nowak. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
I thought you were going to say, not a green gardening guru.
That was the first hour.
I tell you what, he went to radio school. He knows his stuff. Yes, indeed, Mike Nowak and Monroe Anderson in the studio were talking about what's going down in the halls of Congress today. And is it working was the question. The Democrats calling attention to Donald Trump's wheeling and dealing with the president of Ukraine. Is it working? Before we get into that, D, an update from you, sir.
Yeah, I have an update here. This is actually happening as we're doing the show live here, so we're going to try and keep you up to date as best as we can. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot says that Uber is paying off black ministers to oppose her rideshare tax and policies, saying that the company is throwing everything it can at the wall because it doesn't want to be regulated. The following comes from the Chicago Sun-Times. The hardest working man in this building, Dave Roeder. He's awesome.
Roeder's, he'll be coming in tomorrow.
Oh, he'll be talking about this.
Great.
And the one and only Fran the Woman Spielman. Mayor Lori Lightfoot today shot down an alternative congestion fee floated by Uber and accused the ride-hailing giant of offering black ministers $54 million to carry the ride-hailing giant's water.
$54 million?
$54 million.
Whoa.
Lightfoot dropped the political bombshell at a City Hall news conference when asked about that tax plan. Uber claims would raise $21 million more than Lightfoot's congestion fee because it would apply to taxes as well as ride-hailing. The mayor said, quote, "Is this the one where they're paying off black ministers by $54 million? That one? Or is this a new one?" The mayor said they offered up black ministers $54 million, a one-time deal, if they would convince the mayor to do away with any other kind of regulation. And as we walked these ministers through the realities of what is actually at stake here, I think they realized that, frankly, they'd be hoodwinked.
$54 million? How does she know that?
That's correct.
Wow.
She could have got him at 5.4.
Monroe Anderson, very jaded observer of the connections between politicians, businesses, and black ministers in the city of Chicago.
When pressed for proof here, Lightfoot said, quote, "I've had a number of ministers who've met with us and said Uber promised us $54 million. If you convince the mayor to back off, we'll get those names to you."
All right. Whoa, Mayor Lightfoot's. Okay, now just think about this for a second, Mike and Monroe. Just think about this for a second. Let's say it's true.
Okay.
Let's just say it's true that Uber offered black ministers $54 million. I find that a preposterous notion.
Me too. Well, the money, the amount. Yeah.
The amount is preposterous.
Yeah, exactly.
But just how would you go about allocating it? You know, how would you conceal a transfer of that?
Oh, the way you do it is give them housing projects.
But Uber doesn't control housing projects. That'd be the city of Chicago that controls
it. No, I'm
it.
talking about in the sense of building new housing in the black community. What you do is funnel that money through contractors.
But that would be the city of Chicago that would do that, not Uber. Uber doesn't develop.
But the Uber could give them the money to do it. And they would build some housing to justify.
In other words, they would have a press conference and they'd say, Uber is sanctioning.
No, they wouldn't say Uber. They'd say we're building.
I see.
We have this $54 million housing project throughout the South and West Side.
Did I tell you that?
Or there's going to be one minister that has a really great house.
has one of those Donald Trump type houses.
Monroe Anderson knows a thing or two about Chicago politics, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So then my second question is this. Let's say it's true. Yeah. Let's say that someone from Uber called a black minister or a bunch of them and said, all right, here's the deal, guys. If you put the pressure on Lori Lightfoot to drop away from abandon her plan to tax Uber, we'll give you $54 million, okay? Just think about how much that tax is worth to Uber. Just think about that. If they're willing to spend
that's what I was wondering about. What would the tax amount to?
Exactly. No, that's why I don't believe the number.
You don't
That's
think
what I'm
that
joking
you
about.
don't
It's not
you don't, you don't,
$54
you don't think it's
million.
$54 million a year?
No.
Or forever?
Right, exactly.
I think it's like $5.40 if we're going to just stick with the 5 and the 4. We'll buy you lunch.
Well, that was the first thing that popped into my head, and I thought, well, I'm just being naive, but you agree with that. You just think that's a crazy number.
Yes.
So who does it benefit to come up with a number like $54 million? Who's, what kind of strategy is that to say that? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but I'm guessing what the mayor is thinking is, okay, well, some of these ministers are pressuring her, and she wants to have this tax because she needs every penny she can get from wherever to pay down the deficit. So she just pulled the number out of the sky, or some other place else.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It says,
that reminds me of the time when mayor's throwing out dollar signs. I remember when the Mayor Daley, Mayor Richard M. Daley, Mike Novak's favorite mayor, just threw it out there.
you mean Richie the Deuce?
Richie the Deuce
Okay.
wanted to convince people that selling the parking meters was a great idea. And so they came up with the number $1 billion.
Right.
This is already a little more than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think they leaked it to Snead in the Sun Times that they're $1 billion. And I think their thought was people in the city of Chicago would see $1 billion and they're like, God, whoa,
Yes,
what a windfall.
That's billion with a B.
That's what people in the city of Chicago would do.
Right.
They go, billion with a B? Sell the meters, yeah. And here we are, whatever it is, 10 years into the meter deal and the parking meter deal. People have already made back the $1 billion.
They made it back in year one, didn't they?
No, it took a little more than year one, but they've made it back. Everything's gravy from now on.
Right.
And so it essentially was a loan that the parking meters companies gave to the city of Chicago, and now we'll be paying the interest in that loan for the next 65 years by giving them all the proceeds from a parking meter.
I still don't understand why a smart lawyer couldn't break that contract. I still don't get
neither.
Well,
I just don't think they want to, and I'm not sure. But
there you go. You answered your own question.
because I actually thought that Rahm Emanuel might try to do that, and then he would have been a hero, and then the rest of his term is smooth sailing, right? But that just sank beneath the waves.
You are so smart. You are so right. Mike Novak, let it be known, you're right. Rahm Emanuel could have been a hero, but this is one of my favorite things. Every time Rahm Emanuel, here we go. You got me going on him, particularly in that first term. Here we go. Every time Rahm Emanuel was confronted between doing the right thing and doing the wrong thing, he did the wrong thing.
That had a lot to do with him being a corporationalist.
Well, fine. You're giving an explanation for why he did the wrong thing.
Right, exactly.
I'm just saying
for a specific reason.
he could have been the hero, politically speaking, even if it failed. Even if he failed, he tried.
He didn't care about the people.
No, he didn't.
Take a chill pill, man.
He was not. Yeah, exactly. He was not a people person.
By the way, Mike Novak has told me I'm not allowed to mention Wally Phillips, but is he channeling the great Wally Phillips right now?
He is. This is Wally started that, and I picked it up, and now Dennis is running with it.
It's just unbelievable. People, first of all,
Hang tight, millennials.
Millennials are, who? Wally, who? Wally Phillips.
I am who I am.
Guys, getting carried. I don't even know who that is.
I thought it was I am what I am.
That was wrong. Right.
That was
I am
wrong.
who I am.
Oh, okay.
All right, guys, lay off of Dr. D because he's cool.
Yeah, no, he is cool.
Everyone knows what's up.
But anyway, Wally
And I
Phillips.
want to throw one more reference in there. You talked about throwing dollar signs around. Is that better than throwing around nickels like manhole covers?
That would be Michael Keller-Ditka talking about George Hallis. Am I correct on that
I
one?
believe you are.
That's correct.
I knew you would know that one.
I'm really weird. But but anyway, Wally Phillips back in the day on WGN would have these
WGN Radio.
WGN Radio, correct?
Because they actually he tried to do a TV show. He didn't make it in television, so he went back.
I did not know
like
that.
way in the early days.
Oh, I am like this guy.
Well, you have as much hair as Wally had.
Okay. All right.
Anyway, he always had those funny voices, and I've said this before when we had to work. The boss made us listen to WGN. I was in high school, and I wanted to listen to CFL, WLS, and
Sure.
Pop. And they were making me listen to Wally Phillips.
And I apologize.
And Roy Leonard. But the highlight of the day was when Wally Phillips would have those little voices. Go, and I
Well, okay, now, folks should know, and by the way, my name is Mike Nowak, and I have a radio show in Chicago on WCGO 1590 AM and FM. The FM is 95.9. Sunday mornings, 9 to 11 a.m., we talk about gardening, the environment, sustainability, all that good stuff. Okay.
That's how you do an introduction.
Okay. However, and yeah, tune in, folks. There's podcasts. We're all over the place. All right. Like you guys are,
Were you taking notes on that introduction, Ben?
Yes,
conquering the internet
Thank
world. But for 25 years, I worked at WGN Radio, all right? And for the last 9 years of Wally's career, I was his engineer. And I still think folks don't understand that those voices that popped in, most of the time we had carte blanche to throw in whatever we wanted, and Wally would roll with it. Even towards the end, he was really very sharp. Now, he was a lot corny, of course, and when Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer came around, they poked fun at him, and they were the new generation and so forth. And there I was in my 30s running the board for Wally Phillips, going, I'm on the wrong team here, but they paid me well, and it was fun.
And so you were his Maceo, huh? You know how James Brown would call out the Maceo?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right. And
Right.
in fact, Maceo played the music, and James Brown would walk in on a session and go, jump, kiss.
No, he was more like the guy who introduced James Brown, whose name I can't remember right now.
That wasn't Maceo?
No, Maceo did not. Maceo was the sax player.
Yeah, I know.
And,
but he wasn't doing, he wasn't he making up the music too?
James Brown did a little of his own songwriting, but
Not
there was
much.
who was the guy that introduced James Brown?
Do the good foot. Okay, give me the lyrics to do the good foot.
I think you just said the lyrics to
exactly,
do the good foot.
Right, exactly.
But anyway.
My point is made.
So anyway, finish your point, young Michael.
Oh, I think I finished my point. I mean, it was
that he was doing the same thing.
I was behind the scenes, behind the glass, and I'm going to tell some sort of stories out of school here. You'll love this, because when I came in there, Wally had been at the top of the Chicago radio for 20 years, okay? I mean, he had numbers that nobody had before and will never have again. And I come late. I grew up in Detroit. I listened to J.P. McCarthy at WJR. Well, I didn't know who Wally Phillips was, and the chief engineer says, hey, because he knew I was running a theater company, and he said, you're kind of a creative guy. You want to be Wally's engineer too? And I said, sure, not knowing what that meant. And so I started doing that with some of the other guys there who had been doing it for years. What I was told when I came in was kind of interesting. He said, you never talk to Wally. Do not ever talk to Wally. And I was like, what? Yeah. That's nutty. That's crazy. And so I would get on the IFB. Hey, Wally, I want to try this thing out. And Wally responded. He loved it. And I said, well, why were they telling me you never talk to Wally? I talk to Wally all the time. So we had a pretty good relationship.
Well, that's how it works here, by the way. No one's allowed to talk to me. You only got to go through Dennis. Okay? Don't talk to me. I'm too important.
He's a diva. You let that Steve Harvey story get to his head.
I have a Wally Phillips story.
Go ahead.
When Harold was running for mayor, Harold Washington, the final days, he was supposed to appear on Wally's show.
I know the story. Go ahead.
Yeah, and he got tied up in other things, and he did not show.
Uh-oh.
And I'm one of the reporters that's following him around. And it was impossible to follow him around in my private car. He has his entourage, and we go someplace, and you have to find a parking space, and that might take who knows how long, depending on where it was. And they didn't have cell phones or anything like that, so I hadn't called in to talk to the desk to tell them why he had missed the Wally Phillips show, and that was because he was at some other stop and just overstayed.
Well,
and so they freaked out,
they
you know.
did ever.
And I had never, to this day, I've never heard of Wally Phillips show. I mean, I grew up on VON.
Sure.
I mean, I grew up on a completely different media.
Yes.
So I knew Wally Phillips by name, but not one. I had not spent 2 minutes listening to Wally Phillips.
And this is perfect because that you're saying this, because when Harold ran in '83, Chicago was perhaps even more racially divided than it is now. And it was as though there was a wall that went down the middle of the city and separated black and white culture from each other.
Right.
So black people had their radio stations,
Right.
white people had their radio
Yeah.
stations.
Right.
Wally Phillips was the #1 entertainer on radio, but #2 would probably be some black guy.
Yeah.
And white people would be listening to Wally Phillips,
Yeah.
and black people would be listening. And so it was so to the black guy, and it was so important for Harold Washington running as the black man for
Right.
mayor
Right.
to get on the Wally Phillips show
Right.
so that white people could realize that he too was a human being, Harold Washington,
right,
okay?
right.
And he missed the way it was. And so Wally Phillips. And as Mike Nowak can tell you, there are few things in life worse than if you're a radio host and somebody doesn't show up.
I busted. I busted here.
But the thing is, Harold was getting his vote out. He didn't need to go to Wally Phillips. That's the truth of the matter. After he won the primary,
Yeah.
I went on some white radio station. It may have been LS. I can't remember now. As a Tribune reporter.
Mm-hmm.
And the white listeners were calling in, and they were so upset that I felt sorry and started trying to explain to them how this happened, because they couldn't believe it happened.
That
this
he had
black
missed-
guy he had won.
Oh, he had won. I thought
he
that
had
he
won.
missed
No,
Wally Phillips.
No. They were telling, they just couldn't, so I finally, which really endeared me with my editor, I said to them, this one woman was so upset, I said, the problem is the media did not educate you guys enough on who Harold was and what he was doing.
You threw the media under the bus?
Yeah, right.
Monroe
exactly.
in trouble.
Right, exactly.
There goes the media.
I was in trouble too.
By the way, I always forget which reporter did you give his start to? I always forget. Was it Cass or Axelrod? Which one knows his career to you?
It was Cass.
Oh, Cass. All right.
Yeah.
Did he thank you yet?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's what I thought. But let's love doing
No.
that.
Oh,
Did you?
Actually, he did me a favor when I was press secretary. He called in and told me about the brouhaha at the art museum over there.
Yeah, you told me that already.
Yeah,
I guess
right.
he figured, well, all right,
Yeah,
that
right.
took care of me getting a
Right,
job from him.
exactly.
So you haven't finished the Wally story though, and Harold, right?
Yeah, so Harold, I haven't finished so Harold missed the show, and actually, Monroe, I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. Harold needed black vote alone with Hispanic vote was not enough to make Harold the mayor to defeat Bernie Epton. He needed some white votes, and there
But
was,
they weren't on WGN.
this is a valid point. That is a valid point. Okay, so he, that is an interesting point. Could he have won without any WGN white people? I have to think about that one. That is an interesting point.
Right.
Just like your basic run-of-the-mill lefty who doesn't listen to, who thinks makes fun of Wally Phillips, whatever. Maybe that person would have. But I don't even know if a Steve Dahl listener was voting. In fact, I doubt the Steve Dahl.
How often did candidate Obama go on Fox?
Didn't he go on Fox?
Once or twice.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. That's the point.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't getting any Fox viewers.
Well, anyway.
So what was I doing voting for Harold Washington? That's just crazy. I guess.
Well, you were a young liberal white guy.
Yeah, that's true.
I knew you. I knew him back then. Okay,
we played softball together back then.
He had, hey, center field, and
You're not doing it anymore.
No, I am. I still play softball.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he was late for his show in the summer because he had a softball game.
Give him a break.
He should call me out because I stiffed him the last time, and it wasn't like the day of. I did say the night before, hey, I don't think I'm going to be there, and if somebody did that to me, I'd never speak to him again, so I can't believe that I'm back on the show.
No, come on, man. I'm not like that. Anyway, so anyway, with the Wally Phillips show, Harold did go back on the Wally Phillips show.
Yeah.
And but I remember when it happened, just like, oh my God, white Chicago and black Chicago, like white people are freaking out even more now than they were before, and white people were losing their minds over Harold anyway.
Right.
And now you had Wally Phillips going, this has never happened in like 5 billion years that someone stiffed me or whatever. And I just, as a guy who really wanted Harold to win, I was agonizing over it. But then Harold went on, and my memory is correct, and memory's a funny thing, Mike Nowak, but my memory is that Harold charmed Wally Phillips, because Harold Washington was a very charming.
I don't remember that incident. It might have been before my time. Because I didn't start till the end of 83 at GN. So
yeah, well, anyway, Harold Washington, we was very a bust of him here on the show, but I don't know how we got off.
But you
on that
were talking
tangent.
about people freaking out over Harold Washington, who, as you know, Monroe had a history. I was freaking out, honestly, that they could find somebody in an alley named Bernie Epton and put him in, and he would have a real shot at being mayor of Chicago. Yes. I mean, what the heck was that all about?
It's called white fear.
I know it is, but it was appalling.
Yeah.
It really was.
It was, and there's a lot of parallels to what's going on with Trump right now.
Yeah.
Trump's support is rooted a lot of fear. That's what Trump plays upon when he talks about rapists coming across the border. He's
stirring it's
up
exactly
a lot of
the
fear.
same thing, and it's amazing. Now we've been 35 years watching the same playbook,
Right.
and it doesn't seem to change. And now it's worse because Trump's revived it. Let's get the fear of the other, and you know, we're having, while we're sitting here, they're having these impeachment hearings, and the thing, you know, because you told me we were going to talk about this a little bit, and the thing that just pops into my head is the man, and I'm talking about the guy in the White House, has no dignity at all, none. He does it, you know, and that's the thing that just makes me scratch my head, that 44% of people in America don't care.
Well, what's happened over the years is the victimization of white people. They used to not be victims, and now there is this group of losers mainly who are victims, and so they love it that Trump is telling it like it is.
Well, I'm actually going to say that the victimization of white people was alive when Harold Washington ran in 1983, and allow me to the parallel.
Yeah,
sure
it was. No,
because
same thing.
That started in the 60s.
If you criticized white people in Chicago back in 1983, let me go back. If you criticized white Democrats in 1983, lifelong Democrats, always voted for the Democrats, suddenly a black man, a black Democrat, is their candidate, their party's candidate for mayor of the Chicago, and they're going to vote for a Republican, a white Republican. They became Republicans overnight.
Literally.
If you criticize them for that, they would counter with all kinds of things where they were the victims, like, well, you don't know. I mean, it'd be like absurd things, like my brother was mugged by a black guy.
Right.
First of all, I never believe. Who knows if it was even true, but what does that have to do with Harold Washington?
Right.
You get what I'm saying? Like, but there was a reason. Well, it just doesn't come out of anywhere. And then they would counter it. You're an elitist. You're a snob. You're a lakefront liberal. And it's exactly the game that Trump's playing right now. It's like
exactly
counterattacks anybody to
you're
dare.
Never Trumper.
You're a never Trumper.
Never Trumper.
Yeah, right.
And apparently Fox this morning during the beginning of the testimony had little graphics up next to these guys saying, has been accused of being a never Trumper. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, man. This is part of the reason we're where we're at today.
Because of Fox.
Well, not just Fox, but I've been thinking about that and going back in time, having been at WGN and watched. Yeah. Okay, we know there have been strains of this throughout broadcast history, like Father Coughlin and people like that. But it really got organized, and a friend of mine told me this, and I thought about it and said, yeah, this is true. Paul Harvey, who was, everybody would go, they'd smile and think of Paul Harvey, good day.
Yeah.
And he'd tell a funny little story at the end, but he was bringing the right-wing agenda in, and because he did news and commentary. It wasn't just news anymore, it was commentary. So he kind of paved the way, and then Rush came down the road and ran with it, and then suddenly we have whole networks devoted to that side of the story. And I'll tell you how I know this. I mean, everybody knows this, but what brings it home is my radio show. I'm out trying to get it syndicated in other parts of the country.
And when is that radio show?
9 to 11 a.m. Sundays on 1590 WCGO.
And there's an FM, right?
Yeah, 95.9. And you can go to MikeNowak.net
How do you
as
spell
well.
that?
Nowak.
I'll be damned.
Yeah. And so I go out looking for stations across the country where I think the show will fit. There aren't any. Right. They've all got Rush, and they've all got Hannity, and they've all got Levine, and all those characters. So now I realize, well, I'm willing to be in the belly of the beast. That's fine. I'll go on those stations and do what I do and talk green and climate change and watch people's heads explode. Well, that's fine.
If you drive around America and you stay in motels, you will go to some motels where the MSNBC is not even on. You can't even get it. But Fox is everywhere, CNN is almost everywhere, but MSNBC they don't even carry it.
Well, this is a favorite topic of mine for the obvious reason. I'm late to the game that Mike Nowak has made his entire career at, and Monroe also was in the game on the TV side of it in the 90s, and young Dr. D has been in the game since he was like an infant in a crib. But my little brief experience with radio talk, I got fired for being too liberal for a liberal radio station.
I know.
Serves you right.
So, Mike Nowak and Monroe Anderson, what's with lefties and liberals?
I got fired for bringing in too much money to the radio station,
well,
so there we go.
Okay, so what's with liberals and lefties? Why are liberals and lefties incapable of supporting a network on radio or podcasting that even approximates Rush Limbaugh and what the right is done?
Because corporations which support these things are basically conventional and conservative. Right. All right, and that's where it starts with the corporations.
The liberal media is no such thing as you hear the Trump nuts talking about the liberal media, and they think that the Tribune is part of the liberal media. I mean, they make unless you're Fox or some super right wing propaganda organ, then they think you're liberal.
So, you're telling me that liberals don't have money? That liberals wouldn't want to listen to a show and then you could get advertising revenue?
No, liberals blew it when I was in college in the 60s, late 60s. Conservative was a dirty word. And what the conservatives did was systematically built this thing up through radio and what have you. And now liberals a dirty word.
Yeah, and it was insidious. It happened slowly. It happened. It was they were playing the long game, and suddenly, and you've seen that happen where you look around, you go, oh, well, I guess we have to catch up. Well, now the game is rigged. It's hard to do that, and that's why I keep screaming at the TV at the two billionaires in the Democratic race, get out of the race and buy a network that you can put.
One of them owns. Bloomberg has.
He's got his media.
Media
but get some of these stations because people will support it. You know that, Denny. You know that because you worked at the progressive station Chicago. Those people are so loyal and so desperate for talk that they can listen to and they can relate to. And there are millions of people like that across the country who are stuck with the fare they get. How many different stations do you need to have running Rush Limbaugh in your market at the same time? There are markets that will have 5-6 stations running the same show at the same time.
Wow.
That's nuts.
So you're saying that the people who run the stations themselves are of the right-wing persuasion, and that's what they want to hear?
I don't think the people who run the stations are of the right-wing persuasion. They want to make money. Right. Okay,
and they're conservative, but they are crazy right wingers.
No, they're not. They're not Jobs.
But okay, this is what you have a situation where
Not always, anyway.
You have salesmen, traveling salesmen. You have truckers who have they're driving around and they have nothing better to do, and you have these talk shows that are conservative, and they listen to these guys all day long.
And this is why you can't, that 44% stays constant, because they have been brainwashed.
Yes.
They have been brainwashed to accept that liberals are the enemy. It's not even a matter of policy positions anymore. It's just that people who are liberals are bad people, and you can't listen to.
That's what they
I've been called a libtard a few times. I'm sure you have too.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And that's all they got. That's it. It's not about policy. It's about the brainwashing. So how do we get past that? I mean, I watched my dad become brainwashed. I watched my sister become brainwashed. I mean, they have gone down that. I don't even want to ask my brother. I don't want to know what his political leanings are because I'm afraid what he'll tell me.
Thanksgiving at your house must be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun.
You love this. I don't go anymore.
Wait, time out. Are they Michigan? They're back in Michigan?
Yeah. My brother now lives in the UP, so you can guess.
So here we go. I have to ask you this. Then you grew up in the state of Michigan. You have family in the state of Michigan.
Yep.
The New York Times just ran a poll. It was very controversial. They've done at least 2 articles on it that I've seen, and it's generated many more articles in the same newspaper. That talked about the Trump's popularity in the key swing states of Wisconsin and Michigan and Pennsylvania. I don't know if you saw this article, but Trump was very competitive with whatever candidate he threw out there. Now, I could go on and on about how it was biased against Bernie, but let's put that to the side. Based on your knowledge of Michigan, grew up there again.
Yeah.
I'm not blaming you, but you are from Michigan.
Yeah, but I left it 40 years ago, and I don't recognize the state anymore.
What do you mean?
I mean, the shift to the right has been a little bit terrifying. In fact, my nickname for my home state is Militiagan. So thank you very much. Do we have a rim shot there? If we got one,
just
He's
Robert
got
Mueller.
He's got no rims. Here.
Yeah.
I think there's been a swing to the right, and there's been that brainwashing going on. But even more important is suppression of the vote is a big deal, and just convincing people to come out and vote, and I would say people of color is especially, because they've been treated poorly for so long. Why would they come out? Because they just hear the same old promises every single time. And do they ever see any good results from that? Rarely, occasionally. You know, this is why Obama was so successful. I mean, was a middle of the road guy, and I can name half a dozen policies that I disagree with from him, but he sparked that interest, and those people came out and vote. All people, white and black and Hispanic and Asian, because he was different. Now it's going to. I could say. Well, I look at next fall's election, and will we have that person who engages people and has that fires that imagination in the electorate? I don't know that we do.
Mayor Pete? Question mark. No, serious question mark.
Well, it is a serious question.
Yeah.
I think he's the flavor of the month right now.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in Iowa. But here's the thing. I'm sorry. He's another white guy.
Yeah, no.
He's a young white guy.
Right. Well, and he's gay.
And he's gay.
I have a friend who's gay, Joe English. You've had him on the show. Your show. Joe, I was talking to him the other day. He would like to see Elizabeth and Pete as a Veep. And he says if Pete is her vice president, then 20% of the gay men, he says that 10% is nonsense. He said it's 20%.
Okay.
Exactly. He said it's going to be suburban husbands who haven't slept with their wives in 10 years
Are going to come
out to vote for
We'll
the ticket.
about
Yeah,
that.
right, exactly.
I actually think that's a pretty good ticket right there.
Listen, when I think about Obama and what he did in 2008, and I say this as a guy who was all fired up for Obama in 2008. I realize that was I don't know. I don't want to say once in a lifetime, but once in a long time situation.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party cannot expect that to happen again. There's no candidate who has that special mix of charisma and uniqueness that Obama had at that moment in 2008. And I look at all the candidates, been following them very dedicatedly, Monroe. None of them have that. None of them have. So Obama could be vague on every issue. He because it didn't matter what he was talking about. It didn't matter if he wasn't specific. It didn't matter that he was really kind of like a Mitt Romney type in his worldview. What mattered was he just generated, this charisma, and people fell under his spell to a certain degree. And
which Trump is doing for the right.
Yeah, and so the Democrats are going to beat. The Democrats are going to beat the Republicans.
He's the evil Obama. I mean, that's the point.
Right.
I brought it up earlier.
Yeah.
The dignity. Don't people recognize that he's petty, he's vindictive? I mean, they don't seem to care on the right. Whatever happened to character in a presidential candidate? Has that gone away? Does that not count anymore?
No, they think of him as a character, but not having character, but being a character. No, seriously, it's like that. Trump is Trump. Yeah.
No, but if you
would you really want him to be your boss? Would you really want him to live next door?
The people who he happens to be their boss will out.
Yeah.
But they're trapped.
I feel that in some ways, I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say, so I hope I'm going to say it right. But Donald Trump's attitude of defiance to all the conventions of political behavior, on one level, I appreciate. I have to say that at one level, because I've spent my career, Mike Nowak, exposing the inconsistencies of politicians who say one thing and do something else.
Oh, he says one thing and does other things.
I understand it. He's a freaking phony, and he's a fraud, and he's a hypocrite. Right. But he breaks and he defies all the rules and all the conventions.
That's because he's a narcissist. He's not doing it for any principled reason at all. He's doing it because he's crazy.
Whatever the reason. He's a crazy lunatic, or he's making money off of it.
He's sticking it to the man every day.
Yes,
okay?
He's sticking it to the man.
And
the man that he's sticking it to is me and
no,
you.
and them, and those idiots who are voting for him.
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah.
And they don't care.
And
in some instances, they don't know. They haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah.
But so on one level, I can sort of appreciate it, but on the other level, I'm afraid about where the country's going. And the policies that he's enacting by pretending he's sticking it to the man are actually benefiting the man. And so it's pretty obvious he's a fraud, and he's hurting the...
All roads lead to Putin.
Well, it's...
That's what Pelosi said, and if you examine everything he's done in the last 3 years, it's absolutely right.
It is true. And that's ultimately why we're sitting here.
Wait, time out. Why do you say all roads lead to Putin?
Everything that he has done, breaking up, all his policies are Russian. They benefit Russia. Even this Ukraine situation benefits Putin, Russia. If you look at what happened in Syria, pulling the
you're talking about on foreign policy issues.
Yeah, foreign, but also local stuff.
Some domestic policy.
Well, wait, I would say his most significant domestic policy achievement, and I have the word achievement in quotes, is the tax break, which is widely popular with people who benefited from it, okay?
Which creates a society of oligarchs.
Yeah, exactly, which Russia has.
And leads to the kind of situation we're having here in the city of Chicago, where Lori Lightfoot can't figure out how to raise the money we need to fund our basic obligations, because she can't look to the federal government for aid, because they pulled out of that business by and large, and they don't have any money anyway, and they're using whatever they have for military, which doesn't benefit the city of Chicago. So that's his great achievement. And it seems as though there are a significant number of Americans, that's all that matters to them when it comes to voting. And I don't even blame the working class white people, the uneducated white people without college degrees that you're alluding to, Mike. I don't blame them. I think there's a lot of people in DuPage County, on the Gold Coast here in Chicago.
I think it's college educated as well, although they seem to be leaving that camp more and more.
Well, this gets at the question.
Okay, no, this is my theory.
Yeah.
Reagan set up this whole greed is good policy, philosophy, mindset. And we've been in it, and we've just gotten greedier and greedier and greedier. And you've gotten the split. Unions are useless now as far as a lot of people are concerned.
Well, they're corrupt.
Of course, and they're corrupt.
I mean, but that's always the argument. Is like the union is corrupt, and I want to raise my hand and say, so you're telling me that in the scale of things, the union is much more corrupt than the corporation that's. Exactly. That has cut your pay and added more hours to your day.
No, but Reagan started this, the whole Reaganomics and the whole philosophy on it's good to be rich and we don't like those and people. There's a welfare queen and anybody who's not rich is worthless, and it's just grown and grown and entrenched, and that's part of where we are today.
Well, and I will also point out that this is one of my favorite themes. I'll take this opportunity to point it out. That Democrats and Republicans approach accusations of corruption in their party in different ways. So, for instance, it's pretty clear from the evidence a solid case can be made against Donald Trump on the grounds that he was extorting he was trying to get forced arm twist the president of Ukraine into just having a press conference announcing he was investigating Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, whether he was or he wasn't, just for that political purpose, and he was going to withhold aid to him until he did that. And Republicans are responding to that evidence of that with a full court press attack, a counterattack on the people who dare to make the accusations. Here in the state of Illinois, where whenever a Democrat is accused of corruption that is on a scale, I would say, far less significant than the president of the United States twisting the arm of another foreign politician,
bribing a foreign president.
We have
no quid pro quo.
Democrats go, let's pull him out. We're going to remove him from office. This is an outrage. Yeah. We join the Republicans in denouncing this. They always go, only in Illinois, only in Chicago would something like this be tolerated. Meanwhile, Republicans are tolerating it in Washington. And I'm just getting harder and harder. And it's getting harder and harder for me, Monroe, to play that game. Yeah. Do you understand what I'm saying? Oh, I'm outraged by what Louis Arroyo did in
By the way, my representative.
In shaking down. You probably voted for him 1 million times.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But
that's correct.
That's an outrage. But you're not going to join me, Republicans?
Well, it's the same.
Tribune?
It's the same.
Not going to join me?
It's the same with
Trump?
sexual harassment.
That is correct.
It's the same thing.
Yes, you're right. Absolutely the same.
Yeah, and what's amazing here is that, and you just brought it up, it's the first time that has come up about the Trump administration and what he personally has done and has been accused of by scores of women. We haven't even mentioned the environment and what he is doing with his policies in a world where climate change is running rampant and Australia is on fire, California is on fire. We've got a cold snap we've never seen before in November. It's all connected.
All right. That is a good point to take a break. We're going to come back, and Michael Nowak will take a brief deep dive on the environment. I brought him on the show to talk environment, but we got on this great other discussion. We're going to be right back after this.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by Northwestern University's part-time master's program in literature and liberal studies. Students learn from dynamic and diverse faculty as they build advanced skills for critical analysis, writing, and research. Evening classes are held on Northwestern's Evanston and Chicago campuses. The spring quarter application deadline is January 15th. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/masters.
Right now,
Hey, podcast fans. I mean, I'm assuming that's you because you're listening to a podcast, right? You're a fan. I mean, if you're not a fan, why are you listening to this? The Fran Spielman Show is now available as a podcast. Yes, it's true. The Fran Spielman Show features weekly interviews with the lawmakers, journalists, and others who are shaping our city. Fran, I don't know if you knew this or not, Ben had to find out the hard way a couple of weeks ago. Fran holds nothing back. He really didn't. She goes deep into City Hall to bring you the real scoop on Chicago politics, and now you, that's Y-O-U, you can listen to her show on all of your favorite podcast apps. Head to City Hall with Fran and get even more great political coverage from the Chicago Sun-Times. Listen and subscribe now at suntimes.com/Fran-show. That's suntimes.com/FRAN-SHOW. Welcome back to the BEN Joravsky SHOW, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Mike Nowak and Monroe Anderson in the studio. We're concluding our discussion. Mike, before we went to break, I said that
Actually, I have a breaking news here, too. I just came across my phone. Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot offers plan to lower fines and vehicle impoundment for illegal pot possession.
All right, you trying to get my job, pal? That was my update.
Oh, really? Was it?
It was actually, yeah. No,
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
She announced by drawing on a big spleef, and yeah, so
That's spliff.
that was in my beloved bright one today.
it's spliff.
Yes.
And,
I like spleef.
young Thomas Schuba.
I've heard
wrote
spleef
that story.
before.
I think it's from the white suburbs that comes from.
So, are you with her on that?
On what?
On
we're
reducing
making
the penalties.
Yeah.
Me too.
I mean, let's
Good job, Lori.
Let's enter the 21st century. Can we please do that? I mean, the state of Colorado hasn't, they haven't sealed off the borders and drummed them out of the union. 3 or 4 years down the road, it seems to be working okay, and it's reality. This is. I don't advise it. Here's what I would say. I don't advise it for youngsters because it's when you're trying to learn stuff and you're in school, focus is hard enough. Okay, I would say 21 and above.
Yeah, because there are also theories that if you're young and your brain is developing,
right, exactly,
it does weird things to it.
Well, I know it really enhanced my college career. I could just tell you that. I was a young scholar. All right, so I'm not going to ask you for gardening tips on growing reefer, Mike Novak.
Although I was going to ask.
People keep telling me that. They say, so when are you going into the discussion about growing reefer? And I'm thinking, I think it's about time. We probably should.
You really should.
But the laws are complex and differ from state to state as well. So we'll have to see about that.
All right. So I don't want to embarrass you, but have you ever grown marijuana?
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Actually,
they're weeds. All you do is put some seeds in a pot.
No, but there's ways of doing it. Like, so there's some guys.
I got to tell you, okay, I'll give you a story. I grew one in a pot I want to say like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And it was in this pot, and it was this big long stem, and it had a few leaves, and I really wasn't paying much attention to it, and I put it outside and then forgot to water it, and it died. And so I come out at one point, and the leaves are all yellow, and they're about to fall off. So I went, let's give it a shot. And it was some of the best stuff I'd ever had. I was just like, wow, I should have grown more of this. Okay,
Right, exactly.
But that was I haven't grown it probably since then. So
yeah, which
there you
was
go.
yesterday. All right. I haven't grown in at least a week.
I don't know. That may be a new podcast for you, Mike. Mike Nowak's pot stories.
No, podcast.
Oh my God.
There we go.
Get the
I bet
bong
it's
out.
already somebody's already out there with a podcast. You got to
Right.
know.
I don't know, man. Go for it. All right, Mike Nowak, I want to know what the correlation is between this wretched weather of the last 3 days where it's 20 degrees in early November, or 12 degrees even,
My pipes froze.
Monroe's pipes froze.
That is not a weed reference.
Yeah.
Talking about weather.
How do you know?
And a climate change. So please explain the correlation between this horrific cold front and climate change.
Well, if you look at maps of climate change globally, and as I mentioned earlier, Australia is on fire, and other places on the planet are really hot. And if you look at maps, you look at the United States, and you look at places where the average temperature has gone up. There's actually a spot kind of from our area down to the deep south that has been relatively stable. And it's due to various factors involving where they are on the continent, on the North American continent. But it's an anomaly. There's basically no other areas on the planet that are like that. So what we're stuck with here is, and Monroe was mentioning this during the break, and you've seen it, who was it? Oklahoma Senator Inhofe brought the snowball into Congress. And so, well, where's your global warming? And you just want to take the snowball in his face. But you can't look at our area, although part of it has to do with climate change affecting jet streams and how they at one point were in a more orderly fashion around the globe, and now everything's breaking loose. They had the heat wave from Europe go up into Greenland, and a massive amount of ice melt during the summer. You have to look at the planet as a whole. That's why it's climate change and not weather change. You can have weather change from one day to the next. You have to take the temperature all over the planet. You can't just cherry pick our area, and we have had some cooler winters and springs. I mean, we had the cool wet spring, but that's also part of climate change. The idea that we're going to get more rain in certain parts of the country and less in others. I mean, look at the devastation to the farmers in Illinois and Indiana and Missouri this year because they couldn't get Nebraska was underwater in February and March. That's all part of climate change, too. It isn't just the planet heating up. It's everything else that's going with it. And you have to take the numbers from the entire planet. And when you do, you realize we just had the hottest October on record. We keep setting record after record after record. And this is the thing that really scares the heck out of me, is that we're fighting these stupid battles. And I don't mean it's stupid that we have impeachment hearings, because I would impeach the guy just for what he's done to our climate and what he's done to our environment.
How many ways could you impeach him?
I know. I don't know. But I had a guy on my show. Have you ever heard of Guy McPherson? He's a University of Arizona professor emeritus. Denny, he might have been on the show when you were working with me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember hearing that name.
Yeah. He's the guy.
Me and Mike go back.
He's got a blog that is titled Nature Bats Last, which should appeal to you. And you should go read it, because he's the guy who says, we're done. I've looked at the numbers now for 15 years. There's nothing we can do. Enjoy the rest of your life. It's going to be short and painful. And he is very controversial. I had him on my show recently, and you can't believe the podcast numbers I got from that guy, because he's really controversial, but people are paying attention to the guy as well. He says the planet should be in hospice right now. That's how bad it is. And yet here we are, dithering and having these nut jobs put in charge of the EPA and pulling out of the Paris Accord, when what we should be doing is having a Manhattan Project approach to this, where we drop everything else we're doing on this planet and figure out how to fix this, and whether it's fixed, even if it is fixable, and we don't know that it is at this point. So that's kind of my short take on things. Is I can't focus on this every hour of every day. Some people do. And in fact, McPherson lost his career. His life is in a mess. People call him out, and he's become, in some circles, a pariah. But other people go, yeah, no, he's absolutely right. We need to really address this. But are we addressing it? No, we're not even coming close to it. We're not even in the ballpark here. So we can continue to print the numbers and say this was the hottest August, it was the hottest September, it was the hottest October. Who's paying attention? It's just numbers to some people. It's just a headline, and then they move on to, how bad the Bears are, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't understand why TV weathermen on every station in every city don't say, when we have these weather extremes, it's climate change. This is how they should.
Well, I have an answer to that, because my meteorologist, Rick DeMaio, who's on my program every week and has been in Chicago now forever.
Wait, what's the days on and the time of that show again?
I believe it's 9 to 11 a.m. Sunday mornings on 1590 WCGO.
And there's a way on the FM too, right?
Yeah, 95.9, if I'm not mistaken.
Holy cow.
Did I mention there's podcasts at MikeNovak.net, NOWAK.net.
Okay, yeah. Wow.
But Rick is one of the few guys who will come on the air and call out weathercasters. Some of them are meteorologists and some of them aren't. And he says they really do need to be talking about this. Now, part of it is time considerations, because you watch local news and
they spend 5 minutes on the news. They go from, you look at WGN or WLS or CBS, any of them. They spend these.
But they need to do it every day.
But Monroe, you want weathermen to the.
And we're not talking about the lefty underground here, right?
You want these weather broadcasters to stick their neck out on the line. And what Mike was just saying.
Why don't they? If we're not going to be around, if it's this dire, they need to. Okay,
but you got to worry about tomorrow. And see, this is the consequence, the effectiveness of what Trump has done and the right has done and what the Republican Party has done. So you take something like climate change, and Mike Nowak just brilliantly spelled out the essence of what's going on, and it's pretty much indisputable among scientists. I think 99%, something like that. And yet
that is called into question. So, well, what about the 3% who disagree? So there's
imagine if some
being
guy
paid by the oil company.
Yeah, all right, so imagine if some guy from Channel 7 or Channel 5 started every day saying, well, folks, here, get rid Exhibit A on climate change.
Well, no, they don't have to do it every day, just when these records are hit, when this extreme weather comes.
Then they'll get hit with phone calls from the right saying that they're making political statements on what should be the weather report, and they resent this, and the station will feel pressure.
It's no longer a political statement. It's a statement of fact. 97% of the scientists in the world say it's a political.
I agree with you, but
fact.
That's not. I'm just telling you the way the world of journalism works.
No, Ben is right. If Sean Spicer could still be on Dancing with the Stars,
he just got voted off. But
he did.
That's a classic.
You know
case.
why he brought up climate change? That's why he got voted off.
That's correct.
That is a classic. That is a classic case, and we'll close with that.
That is a man who should be a pariah. Really,
Sean Spicer ginned up a revolt against meritocracy. He made it a political vote. Vote for me. It's a vote for Trump. If I get voted off a dance contest, it'll be like the liberals will win. And all these people weighed in and voted for the guy who was a bad dancer.
Oh, he's badder than bad.
He's so bad.
Right.
And so there you go. You just proved the point. When 44% is whatever the number you gave, Mike.
97.
No, 44% of the country will
just
say whatever Donald Trump tells them to say.
Yeah.
Then if Weatherman Billy Bob on Channel 5.
That's my favorite Weatherman. Weatherman Billy Bob
says,
don't say nothing bad about him.
Says that this 20-degree temperature in early November is a result of climate change. The phone calls will come in.
Except as DeMaio points out, Skilling does, but he's the only one basically. Yeah, he does.
But he is such a weather nerd and an institution.
So you can't believe him because that's all he cares about,
yeah,
right?
Exactly, right. No, you know him. You believe him for that reason because I mean he goes through such great and plus he is really just a decent human being.
Yeah. Plus, man, look how Trump tried to fire those meteorologists for the federal government and put them under pressure because they wouldn't say
because of the Sharpie incident.
Hurricane was coming to.
I mean, that was
Alabama.
You're talking impeachment. That's a federal offense. He committed a federal offense by using the Sharpie. How many federal offenses can this guy commit and still remain president?
And since we didn't talk enough Trump, he also was going to fire the internal general for allowing the whistleblower to
the inspector general?
The inspector general.
Yeah.
For allowing the whistleblower to come forward. He was planning on firing him.
Well,
and he's supposed to be independent.
Yeah. The inspector general is supposed to be independent.
Yeah,
All
right, exactly.
We do have an update before we roll out of here. Well, first off,
no collusion.
Okay.
Hoax.
Wally Phillips. Go ahead.
Yeah, come on. The next Wally Phillips here. All right, we have an update here. It's an Illinois congressional election update. Now, last election, the third congressional race between Dino Dan Lipinski and Marie Newman was one of the closest in the country. Dino Dan barely won, just barely. Marie Newman is back for the rematch, but she's not the only one running. Last time we checked, Lipinski was facing three Democratic challengers, but this just in.
Abe Matthews.
The number is now down to 2.
Uh-oh.
Democratic hopeful Abe Matthew dropped his primary bid to unseat Dan Lipinski and endorsed Marie Newman.
That's correct.
Matthew said in a Tuesday statement, quote, "To the people of the 3rd District, my friends and neighbors, I will never stop fighting for you all. I will not stop fighting for you. Those who know me best know I am a much better advocate for others than I am for myself. In recognition of this, and after consultation with my family, I withdraw my name for consideration for Congress in Illinois' 3rd Congressional District. Marie Newman still in the race, and we're now down to 3.
All right, very good. Thank you for that update.
The thing we love about Lipinski is he did it on his own. He
pulled himself up by daddy's bootstraps.
Like the Arroyo family, okay?
or like the Trump
or like the Trump family.
Yes, indeed. And they are all self-starters, just sort of.
See, we yell at our own here on this show, right?
Yeah, we rip Democrats too.
Yep.
Danny Lipinski is the son of William Lipinski, who, of course, was the congressman before young Daniel. He retired and then handed it off to his son. So, just following on a great tradition
it's called
Democratic
the family
politics.
business.
The family business.
Exactly.
All right, Michael Nowak, thank you very much. Monroe Anderson, thank you very much. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, and as Mike Nowak knows, back home in downstate Alton, they call him White Lightning. Yeah, they call him White Lightning. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. See you tomorrow, everybody.
Hey, and remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows and Benny J bonus interviews at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download podcasts. And hey, downloaders, we live stream this program. It's true. Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time, once again at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, the Chicago Sun-Times YouTube channel. And yeah, that's about it. So go check that out if you ever wonder what it's like to watch the video. Go check it out. We'll see and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at Benny J Show. BENNY, the letter J Show. See you tomorrow.
I mean, you guys are really good. it's like the generation. You're the same. So you have the same. Like you both knew what that Wally Phillips thing. I'm sure millennials everywhere were turning us off.